Squids rejoice! It is your Papa Yam here once again to share with you some sweet, sweet auditory pleasures. And no, I'm not talking about the musical accompaniments of Lips of an Angel by Hinder, nor Kid Rock's Bow with the Bow. But instead, we are talking about the 7 best sounding motorcycles ever bestowed upon us humble men by the motorcycling demigods. We've got all sorts of bikes on the list today, old bikes, newer bikes, and every engine configuration you could possibly imagine. So put on your high fidelity noise canceling headphones, turn down the lights, and prepare yourself for some otherworldly motorcycle ASMR. Today's video is sponsored by our friends at Rockform. I'll tell you more about them later in the video. Without further ado, let's look at some truly S-tier motorcycle engine sounds. The first motorcycle we absolutely have to talk about is the Honda RC166. The RC166 or 166, whatever you want to call it, is a legendary motorcycle that holds a place in the hearts of motorcycle enthusiasts around the world. Produced in the 1960s, the RC166 was a 250cc 6-cylinder race bike developed by Honda for Grand Prix racing. Yes, you heard that right. A 250cc inline 6 ZX4RR each your heart out. The RC166 had a bore and stroke of 41 by 30 millimeters. Wow. This motorcycle had pistons barely larger than a 50-cent coin, and with a 30 millimeter stroke, the engine could rev all the way to 18,000 RPM with ease. It was a true marvel of engineering and a testament to Honda's technical prowess, also from the 60s. That's just wild. At a time when most motorcycles had only 2 or 4 cylinders, Honda's RC166's engine configuration was groundbreaking. This high-revving engine was capable of producing around 60 horsepower, giving the RC166 an impressive power-to-weight ratio. The RC166 was highly successful in motorcycle racing, dominated the 250cc class during its racing career. The RC166's success on the track was epitomized by its victory in the 1966 Isle of Man TT. Honda's talented rider Mike Halewood rode the RC166 to victory in the 250cc class, securing a remarkable win. This bike is truly a mechanical marvel and an absolute gem from a lost era of motorcycling. Only 45 of these bikes were ever made, and internet rumors have stated that they've sold privately for over $1 million. Here is how the Honda RC166 sounds. Another absolutely beautiful relic of 1960s motorcycle racing is the MV Agusta 503. This motorcycle was built around a 498cc inline 3-cylinder 4-stroke engine designed to compete in the 500cc class of Grand Prix motorcycle racing. And compete it did, winning 7 consecutive world championships from 1966 to 1972. This air-cooled engine was the first engine from MV Agusta to employ 4 valves per cylinder, which netted 6 extra horsepower over the 2-valve design. The MV Agusta 503 also stood out from the competition due to its large oil pan and oil cooler designed to prevent the engine from overheating. This motorcycle was making around 80 horsepower while having a dry weight of only 260 pounds. Whew, that's a rocket ship. The 503 or 500 Tre was capable of reaching top speeds of 160 miles per hour. The 500cc 3-cylinder was ultimately replaced by a 4-cylinder in 1973, but its legacy was not overshadowed. The 503 still holds a place in MV Agusta's racing legacy, and this bike just sounds downright nasty. Take a listen. The last prehistoric motorcycle we have to talk about today is the Norton Manx 500. I'm sure you guys are thinking, where are the modern screaming V4s and crossplane, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry, we'll get to the modern stuff here shortly, but there is something just so raw and aggressive about these old race bikes. They really don't sound like anything you'd hear today, and the Norton Manx 500 is no exception. You usually think of single-cylinder motorcycles as being thumpy and agrarian, and at best sounding like brappy motocross bikes, and at worst sounding like a hot-rodded lawnmower. But the Manx 500 is something else entirely. The Manx 500 was specifically designed for for competition in the Isle of Man TT races and other international racing events. The Manx 500 derived its name from the Isle of Man TT race circuit, where it proved to be highly successful. It made its debut in the early 1950s, replacing the pre-war Norton International model. The Manx 500 was an evolution of its predecessor, incorporating several technical advancements to enhance performance and reliability. One of the most notable features of the Norton Manx 500 was its engine. It was powered by a single-cylinder 4-stroke engine with a displacement of 499 cc's. The engine was known for its robustness, smooth power delivery, and high revving capabilities. It featured a bevel-driven overhead camshaft and a short-stroke configuration, which allowed it to achieve high RPMs and generate impressive power. The Norton Manx 500's success in racing was significant. It secured numerous victories in the Isle of Man TT races, including the 500cc class, throughout the 1950s and 60s. The bike's dominance on the demanding island circuit further solidified its reputation as a formidable racing machine. The bike's performance, combined with its skill of riders like Jeff Duke, John Sutries, and Mike Halewood, contributed to its status as a legendary race bike, and you gotta hear how this thing sounds. Speaking of auditory pleasures, who here in the audience enjoys listening to music? Yes, I see a few hands. Wow, very controversial. Now, keep your hands raised if you listen to music while riding your motorcycle. Okay, I see a few hands dropped, so what's the dilemma? You say you love music so much, why don't you listen to it on the bike? Is it because you don't have a convenient and safe place to keep your phone while on your motorcycle? Well, that's a pretty lame excuse when Rockform exists. Rockform has been a longtime supporter of our shenanigans here at YamiNoob. They make absolutely the best phone cases and handlebar mounts for motorcyclists. Their cases are drop tested, magnetic, and they look pretty darn sleek as well. They have mounts for every type of motorcycle too, so whether you ride a Turbo Busa or Rebel 250, you can securely access your phone for music, turn-by-turn directions, or mobile world-building puzzle games. Just kidding, don't play phone games on your motorcycle. That's really not a good use of time and is very dangerous. But really, Rockform is just the best at what they do. We've got all their mounts on all of our bikes at the shop. You may have been seeing them featured in videos, and I wouldn't want to have it any other way. And since I want you to get on board as well, fans of the Yam will receive 25% off their order by using the code YN25 at checkout. So head over to rockform.com and use that code YN25 for 25% off your order. Thanks so much to Rockform for the support on the channel today. Now let's get back to these amazing motorcycle exhaust sounds. So it's no question that MV Agusta has a storied legacy in motorcycle racing, but they also had not been immune to hard times. I mean, I feel like when you're originally owned by someone with the title of Count, the trajectory of the business is questionable, and that's literal for MV Agusta, that someone would call it Count. But alas, there was no one motorcycle that has been credited for getting MV Agusta back on the right track, and that is the MV Agusta F4. The Agusta F4 was introduced in 1998, marking the brand's resurgence under the ownership of the Castiglione family. The motorcycle's design was led by Massimo Tamburini, an iconic motorcycle designer who previously contributed to the development of the Ducati 916. Tamburini's expertise in creating visually stunning and aerodynamically efficient motorcycles played a crucial role in shaping the F4's design. The F4 was instantly acclaimed for its exceptional design and attention to detail. It embodied the essence of Italian design, passion, blending elegance, aggression, and aerodynamics. The F4 was made from 1999 until 2018. Geez, I didn't know that. That's wild. It originally was released using a 749cc inline-4 engine until ultimately utilizing a 998cc engine in the second generation after 2010. The second generation MV Agusta F4 made between 186 and 212 horsepower depending on the model. The original engine design was derived from a Ferrari Formula 1 engine from the early 90s as Ferrari engineers assisted in the development of the engine. MV Agusta ultimately deviated from this design but retained the use of radial valves, which is quite unique to the MV. The MV Agusta F4's development and subsequent racing achievements revitalized MV Agusta's racing heritage and brand prestige. The F4 proved highly competitive on the racetrack, earning victories and podium finishes in various national and international racing events. Plus, it just sounds absolutely insane. Let's take a listen. Speaking of Italian racing pedigree, the Ducatistas are already raging in the comments that we've come this far in the video without mentioning Ducati, so here we go. The next motorcycle on the list is the Ducati Desmosedici RR. Born out of Ducati's MotoGP racing endeavors, the Desmosedici RR was a limited production road legal sport bike based off of their machine from MotoGP. Ducati only made 1,500 of these motorcycles for sale in 2007 and 2008, and it was definitely their way of celebrating their MotoGP victory in 2007 with Casey Stoner. It's a really cool tribute. The Desmosedici RR serves as many Ducatistas' white whale, often being referred to as the most sought-after limited production Ducati, surpassing even the 916 in some circles. At the time of original purchase, 16 short years ago, the Ducati Desmosedici RR cost a modest $72,500. At the heart of this motorcycle was a 16-valve V4 engine, which makes sense with Sedici meaning 16 in Italian, and Desmo referring to the desmodromic valve system. This motorcycle made a claimed 197 horsepower and 85 foot-pounds of torque. This bike was built for the ultimate Ducatista whose MotoGP cosplay cannot be limited to a full production Ducati motorcycle, and truthfully, just about every motorcycle ever made by Ducati sounds pretty darn good, but the Desmosedici definitely lives in the upper echelons of motorcycle soundtracks. It's truly an awesome V4 sound. Let's give it a listen. It is hard to talk about best sounding motorcycles and not mention Yamaha's cross-plane design. I mean, I'm glad we've made it this far in the video without talking about it, but I can't dance around the subject anymore. Traditionally, motorcycles with inline fours usually end up sounding kind of the same. That's not to say it's a bad sound, but if you hear a 4-cylinder sport bike at Redline pass by in the distance, you'd be hard-pressed to determine if it was a Suzuki or a Kawasaki or a BMW S1000 RR. It definitely wouldn't be a Honda because Honda nerds never rev their bike to Redline. And you could safely say it wasn't a Yamaha R1 because the R1 has one of the best, if not the best, contemporary inline 4-cylinder engine sounds. The crossplane crankshaft is a significant departure from conventional inline 4 engines found in most sport bikes. In a traditional inline 4 engine, the crankshaft has a 180-degree firing order where the pistons fire at evenly spaced intervals of 180 degrees. This results in a smooth and predictable power delivery. On the other hand, the Yamaha R1's engine employs a crossplane crankshaft that has a 270-degree firing order. This means the pistons fire at intervals of 270 degrees with uneven firing intervals. This design creates a firing pattern that resembles that of a V4 engine, giving the R1 its distinctive exhaust note and power characteristics. There are countless advantages to a crossplane engine design, but this isn't a video on the specifics of engine architecture, so we're just going to leave it at the fact that it makes the R1 exhaust sound like a deep, burbly supercar that you can also rev to like 13,000 RPM. This bike sounds so freaking good. And as an honorable mention, because if I didn't put it here with the R1, everyone would get mad at me, Aprilia's RSV4 does sound amazing too. Let's take a quick listen. The last motorcycle on the list today is the Honda RC211V. When it comes to Honda's race bikes, they are all kind of amazing. You could just put RC in any random combination of numbers, and it's going to end up being one of Honda's renowned race bikes. This one was introduced in 2002 to replace the two-stroke NSR 500. The RC211V was Honda's flagship racing machine developed for competition in the Premier MotoGP class. Around this time, the class regulations were changing, which allowed displacements of up to 990cc for 4-stroke motorcycles with 3 to 6 cylinders. Because of this rule change, many manufacturers began abandoning their 2-stroke platforms for larger 4-stroke engines. And fun fact, in the RC211V's debut year, Honda and Valentino Rossi dominated the Constructors' Championship by more than 100 points. The Honda RC211V was powered by a unique V5 engine. It combined the characteristics of a V4 and inline 5 layout, providing a balance between compactness and smooth power delivery. The V5 engine configuration allowed for optimal weight distribution and improved handling. The RC211V was the first MotoGP motorcycle to incorporate a pneumatic valve system. The system replaced the traditional valve springs with compressed air, enabling higher engine speeds and reducing valve float at extremely high RPMs. The pneumatic valve system contributed to an increased power and improved reliability. Now let's give that Honda RC211V a listen. So there you have it, 7 of the objectively best sounding motorcycles ever made. I still think that those 1960s race bikes sound so good. Totally raw, unbridled sounds from an engine that probably would need to be rebuilt after every race. You just can't find that character and emozione in a production motorcycle these days. Which bikes did I leave off the list? Ninja 650, Honda CBX? Let me know down below. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you later. Fact. During the Cold War, the CIA attempted to train cats as covert listening devices in a project called Operation Acoustic Kitty. They surgically implanted microphones and transmitters into the cats, but the project was unsuccessful and eventually abandoned after years of training and millions of dollars spent. Goodbye.
Keep watching.